What's up, everybody? This is Lenny Kaiser from Sequence One Music School, and today I'm excited to show you the new features and devices in Ableton Live 10. So here's the project we're going to be working with so that I can show you all the new features in Live 10. So you can see already there's a lot of interface improvements just in how Live looks. The appearance of clips has been updated, and we'll notice that if we double click on a MIDI clip, MIDI notes are now drawn in their clip's colors. There's also another feature that I wanted to point out real quick, that you can right click on a track and assign that track's colors to the clips. So we're looking at an earlier version of this session right now, and I'm going to show you a new feature in Live 10 that helps you in recording. So first, I'm just going to jam out and try to find a chord progression to this beat. So let's say we were just playing along and we wished we would have recorded. Well, now you can capture that recording with the capture button up here. This button is live, always listening to MIDI input on armed or input monitored tracks. All right, let's check out our first new device in Ableton, and it is Wavetable. So Wavetable is a dual oscillator wavetable synth. So on Wavetable, to choose your sounds for different oscillator types, we have our categories, which we can choose from, and for each category, there's a whole series of wavetables. And then when you've chosen a wavetable, you can scrub through the wavetable position with this slider here. There's also some oscillator effects down here. I'm going to go with FM and turn up the amount here, and this is going to get trippy. So we also have a dual filter section that can be run in serial, parallel, or split. So I'm just going to use the one filter, and let's go ahead and turn it down to cut some of the highs. So you'll notice on the right side here, we have all of our different modulation sources, amps, envelopes, LFOs, all that good synthesis stuff. But the cool thing about Wavetable is the modulation matrix. So let's go ahead and say we wanted to route envelope 2 to control the filter 1 frequency. So I just grab this slider, push and drag up. So the matrix enables assigning modulation from envelopes and LFOs to parameters in the instrument. Just line them up in the matrix and then choose a value. If there's a parameter that you want to modulate and it's not in the matrix, just click on it in the instrument and it will populate in the matrix. You'll also notice there is a MIDI modulation matrix where you can assign modulation from different MIDI inputs. This is our global section on Wavetable. There's a lot of really cool unison effects, which I highly recommend checking out. Those make it sound super awesome. Lame. Awesome. If we click the Wavetable Breakout toggle, we can see all of the different modulation sources here. If I close the browser and start dragging this up, we could just go full screen. If you want to learn more about sound design with Wavetable, you should definitely check out our new Advanced Music Production course. Okay, let's go ahead and record a melody on this other track with the push. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in on this clip by clicking on this clip and hitting the new function Z to zoom to selection. There's a couple other editing changes here to editing with clips. We'll notice that if we're in the top half of a clip, we get the trim tool. So I can trim this clip. In the bottom half, we can now select anywhere in the clip. And you'll notice too, when selecting in a clip, that wherever we select, this is going to show our clip contents. So you can see as I select more, we see it mirrored down in the MIDI note editor. So I'm going to hit Shift Z to zoom all the way out, which is a new function also. And now I'm going to show you a really exciting function. By holding Shift, I'm going to select both of these clips we now have MultiClip Editing in Live 10. So the way that you jump between the notes and the two clips is you'll notice the different loop braces here representing the different clips. So if I wanted to edit the melody, I would click the purple loop brace here for that clip, and I could add a note, subtract notes, etc. And then if I wanted to go back to the chords, I could do that there. So I'll go ahead and highlight my melody and do a quick quantize. Okay, so let's focus on the melody and add another new device, Echo, which is a new delay device. So I am going to add the preset here, 8-dot ball, and let's see what this can do. So let's tune this up a little bit. I'm going to first open the filter section for the delay, and I'm going to move this filter up to remove some lows from the delayed signal. I'm going to turn the feedback down to about 43% here, turn the dry wet down to about 29%. And Echo also has a built-in reverb in it that can be applied here. So let's go ahead and add some reverb signal. We can choose to put it pre or post the delay signal. So let's go ahead and put it post and crank up the decay time here. So one of my favorite things about Echo is the character tab here. The characters tab parameters control dynamics and add cool imperfections to your delay. With ducking on, the delayed signal is reduced when the input signal is active. So when the dry input signal exceeds the assigned threshold here, the dry signal essentially ducks the delayed signal. This is kind of like a pseudo sidechain effect, because essentially it's turning down the wet signal while the dry signal is happening. So this is going to allow you to create smooth transitions between the original sound and the delayed sound. Let's check it out by lowering our threshold down a bit here. Let's check out another new device in Live 10, Pedal. This device is modeled after 3 classic guitar distortion foot pedals and can warm up sounds or add aggressive fuzz. So we have overdrive, distort, and fuzz. So let's go ahead and set it to distort and take the dry wet down to about 50%. So let's check out another new device in Ableton 10, Drum Bus. But before we do that, let's go ahead and clean up our arrangement view here by hitting S on the QWERTY keyboard to show all of our tracks. So for this Drum Bus demo, I'm going to import some audio material. So I'm going to make a selection on the arrangement timeline here for where I want to place the audio material. Then I'm going to go to the Create menu and choose Import Audio File. Then I'm going to go to my desktop here and select this kick drum. So Drum Bus shows up under Audio Effects and Drum Bus. So Drum Bus is an audio effect that combines several commonly used drum processing tools into a single device. Drum Bus has the ability to add distortion, compression, remove high frequencies, and even enhance low frequencies. It also has a built-in transient shaper. Let's focus on the boom control, which enhances low frequencies. The frequency knob below that allows you to tune those low frequencies. You can also control the length of the boom with the decay percentage here. And on the bottom here, we have the Force to Note button, which is going to force the frequency knob to an exact note pitch. So let's add Drum Bus to the entire drum track here. So the drive control is going to add distortion to the input signal. So I'm going to turn that up to about 30%. I'm going to turn up the crunch control a little bit. This is going to add extra distortion to the mid and high frequencies. I'm going to open up the damp control because this is dampening some of the high frequencies. And I'm going to turn on the compressor button down here, which applies a fixed compressor before the input distortion. I'm going to adjust the output down -3 dB, and I'm going to turn the dry wet percentage down to 80%. So let's hear it with drum bus and without. So now I'm on the bass track, and let's add an EQ8. We'll notice that when I turn on filter number 1 here, that it can now go down to 10 Hertz. Now I'm going to show you the updated utility device. I'm going to grab this and place it onto the master track in front of my mastering chain here. So you can see the utility device looks a lot different, and one of the most noticeable things you'll see is that the gain knob now goes down to -infinity. And now in Live 10, we can double click on any parameter to reset it to its default value. The utility device has been updated and now also has a bass mono switch. So you can mono just below a certain frequency, which is awesome. So this is something that I'm doing on the master track just to center all of the low frequencies. And if you want to hear the frequency range that is in mono, you can hit the bass mono audition button here. I know that was a whirlwind tour of all the new devices, but we cover them all in detail in our new advanced music production course. Okay, so as I've been working, you may have noticed this new section up in the browser called Collections. So this is a new way for tagging your favorite sounds, instruments, presets. It's super cool. So you can hit the edit button here and turn on your different collections. You can have up to 7 of them. You can right click to rename them. Then when you're done, if you're browsing for a preset that you like, all you have to do is right click on that and choose the category that you want it to be in. So I'm going to bring in some audio material from my collections and drop it onto the timeline. We can now move clips on the arrangement timeline with the arrow keys. So let's zoom in again on this selection. So we remember that Z will zoom to the selection. The minus and plus buttons are going to allow us to zoom in and out. We can also hold Command on a Mac and use the scroll wheel to scroll in and out. So another feature for moving audio material within inside a clip is we can hold Shift and Option to drag the contents of a clip around without moving the clip itself. So let's go ahead and move that over, and then I'm just going to delete the rest of this clip. So let's zoom in and add some fades to this arpeggiation part here. So you'll notice now that fades are always part of audio clips in Live 10. So let's add a fade in and a fade out for this. We'll solo the track, add some reverb with the send, and we can adjust the duration of a fade with either the fade in start handle here and also on the end of the clip with the fade out end handle. Another new feature in Live 10 is the ability to stretch audio on the timeline. So if I have a clip here and I wanted to stretch this out, I just hold Shift and we notice we get that new icon on the trim tool and we just click and drag. So I'm going to hit Tab to go to the session view and close the browser. So notice that this track is a little bit heavy on the right channel on our meters. So we now have in Live 10 a split stereo pan mode. And the way I got there is just by right clicking on the pan control. And now we can individually turn down the left or the right channel. Okay, so I'm back in the arrangement view here. And another improvement to Live 10 is that you can turn the arrangement loop on and off with Command L now. Now we're going to create a reverse sound effect using a tom drum to enhance our bass line. So let's open up the browser and grab the tom sample from the collections folder, drop it onto an audio track, fold down the track, and let's reverse this audio. All we have to do is hit R. Again, we could use the arrow keys to slide this around. I could hold Command to drag that in close and then trim it. And let's go ahead and hear the effect that that creates. And let's say I wanted to group this snare layer and this sound effect reverse track with Command G. And now, let's say I wanted to group that with the tom track. We can now highlight that. And now in Live 10, we have nested group tracks. So now in Live 10, you press A on the QWERTY keyboard to toggle automation. You can also toggle automation mode on and off with the button up here. And there's several other automation improvements. So let's look at Wavetable here. Let's automate the frequency control here. So we can see we already have our filter 1 frequency control in a new automation lane. So now we don't have to place the mouse directly on a line to create a new breakpoint. We can simply double click anywhere in the clip to make new automation, which is super cool. Automation breakpoints now snap to grid lines. We can now move automation selections with the arrow keys. We can hold Shift while we're moving our automation up and down to constrain it to only moving vertically and not horizontally. Automation breakpoints, you no longer need to hold Shift for them to move past existing breakpoints. You can also edit clips within an automation lane. So if I was working on automation and I wanted to join these two clips, I can highlight the clips in the automation lane and hit Command J, and that has joined the two clips above. Another improvement is the lock envelopes button can now be MIDI mapped. One other important improvement is now the M key will turn on the computer MIDI keyboard. And that's important to mention here in the automation section, because when the computer MIDI keyboard is on, A is not going to work to toggle automation mode. Another improvement to Live 10 is that if you want to create a blank MIDI clip on a MIDI track, you can just double click. And let's go ahead and enter in some notes here and highlight and hit legato to make this chord sustain. So you'll notice now in Live 10 that if I was to start the playback from the middle of the chord, we hear the instrument play. And that is because of this new feature, Chase MIDI Notes. So Chase MIDI Notes is going to allow you to hear MIDI notes even though it doesn't roll over the beginning of the notes. One other editing feature that's cool about Live 10, if you want to deactivate a selection, you can just make that selection and hit 0. You no longer have to edit that selection and then hit 0 to deactivate. So there's a couple new setup improvements that are handy. In the Preferences menu under the Audio tab, if you have an active audio interface, you can configure your inputs and outputs with custom names. So you could name your synthesizers or your microphones, things like that. We also have a bunch of new metronome sounds and different rhythms for our metronome, and we have an enable only while recording feature. We have some file handling improvements, so the undo history is no longer cleared when you save, and we also have a new export option for MP3. So now in Live 10, if you were to take a clip from an existing track, such as this drums track, and drag it to a new track, it will create a new track with all of the same instruments on it. Another feature in the browser is now packs are installed via the browser. So you can just go down to packs, see which packs you have to install, and click the install buttons. There's also a bunch of new themes that can change how Ableton looks. So if we go into the Preferences menu to the Look Feel tab, we have all of these different themes here. If you want to know more about Live 10, we have 2 new courses on our website, so visit sequence1.org.